The secrecy gap. Surveillance in the Northwoods.
Driving through rural Price County at dusk, the atmosphere is quiet. It looks like a community where public resources are stretched thin. Local officials frequently state they lack the budget to fund basic services, like protecting domestic violence victims. Price County covers over 1,200 square miles of dense state forests and isolated rural highways. This creates a constant logistical challenge for local law enforcement. A limited number of patrol officers are tasked with monitoring thousands of acres and responding to incidents across highly dispersed recreational zones. In this environment, physical distance acts as a structural vulnerability. Maintaining situational awareness over every county ingress and egress route is impossible using human patrols alone. These constraints drive resource-strapped agencies to seek out force multipliers, technological systems designed to amplify the reach of a small staff, effectively mimicking the presence of a much larger workforce. This specific landscape of geographic expanse and limited personnel made the region a candidate for a technological intervention that would bypass traditional policing methods. The new intervention came from Flock Safety. Their systems represented a shift from reactive, dash-mounted recording toward proactive, autonomous surveillance driven by artificial intelligence. In late 2023, the City of Phillips authorized the installation of automated license plate readers, manufactured by Flock Safety. These discrete units rely on highly localized solar panels and commercial cellular networks to operate independently of traditional municipal infrastructure. Local law enforcement typically describes these as simple, benign tools meant to catch hit-and-run drivers and local speeders. These are Flock Safety ALPR cameras. They use artificial intelligence to log the make, model, color, roof racks, and even bumper stickers of every passing vehicle. This creates a 24/7 record. It logs the exact GPS coordinates of everyday citizens down to the second, mapping movements throughout the county. Wisconsin's state-level privacy laws are limited, providing few restrictions on how this data is shared once it's collected. Once gathered, your location data is routed out of the county and fed into a centralized national network. This infrastructure allows the movements of local residents to be stored in out-of-state servers indefinitely. Federal agencies utilize this dragnet to track individuals without a warrant, starting with the FBI. This network is also accessible to Immigration and Customs Enforcement, and it's also used by the Drug Enforcement Administration. Audits indicate that up to 99% of scanned vehicles belong to ordinary residents suspected of no infraction. While the technology generates actionable leads at the front end of the system, it places new stress on Price County's existing infrastructure, which is currently managing an overcrowded jail and a shortage of prosecutors. The county relies on a correctional facility consistently described by local reports as the oldest and smallest in the region. This aging structure is currently buckling under a severe and protracted overcrowding crisis, struggling to safely house baseline inmate populations. Simultaneously, the jurisdiction recently endured a catastrophic failure in judicial processing. Following an unexpected resignation, the county experienced an 8-month vacancy in the district attorney's office, resulting in a paralyzing backlog of uncharged cases. Advanced cameras automatically generate immediate, actionable leads, but the physical legal system remains entirely incapable of processing new arrests. This exposes a distinct misalignment of municipal priorities. Resources are directed toward apprehension technologies that actively produce detailed evidentiary packages, while the foundational democratic institutions required to execute legal consequences are structurally failing. How did a rural town with a restricted budget join a massive federal surveillance network without a public town hall or a vote from the city council? A search of the standard municipal budget for the city of Phillips shows no mention of Flock Safety. A forensic open-source intelligence audit of the Municipal Digital Archives was conducted to locate the statutory approvals for these cameras. Researchers searched city council minutes and budget ledgers for any legislative discussion regarding the technology. Historically, Price County and the city of Phillips meticulously documented law enforcement capital outlays. A forensic audit of municipal records between January 2022 and November 2023 shows that the words Flock or ALPR appear exactly 0 times in the public ledger. The multi-jurisdictional surveillance grid bypassed the administrative mechanisms of a town hall vote, leaving no democratic paper trail in the 23 months preceding its installation. The acquisition of a town-wide surveillance network typically requires a highly visible financial authorization. This silent acquisition was facilitated by a structural shift in vendor pricing. Rather than a massive one-time capital equipment purchase that requires public debate, the system is leased under a software-as-a-service model. The $2,500 annual subscription fee easily hides within discretionary operational budgets. Furthermore, the timing of the deployment aligns perfectly with the expenditure deadlines for remaining federal American Rescue Plan Act funds. In many Wisconsin jurisdictions, the initial implementation costs were further shielded from local tax levies by utilizing remaining federal pandemic relief, or ARPA funds. While the city meticulously documented and debated the $45,000 procurement of police body cameras in 2021, the records for the AI tracking network remained absent. This subscription-based model creates a bureaucratic path of least resistance, allowing for the deployment of surveillance technology while minimizing public oversight. Regional media reports confirmed that the system was actively tracking vehicular movement, and sharing that data. This revelation introduced a chilling effect into the community. Residents realized that trips to sensitive locations, from medical clinics to social establishments, union meetings, or local political events, were now preemptively recorded and stored simply because the data might prove useful later, and were searchable by the state. This aggregation follows the mosaic theory of the Fourth Amendment. While a single sighting of a car is a public data point, the continuous collection of thousands of movements creates a comprehensive, invasive map of a private life. With no specific state statutes in Wisconsin governing license plate readers, data retention limits and usage policies remain defined by the vendor rather than by legislation. The covert deployment of the tracking network shifted the foundational presumption of innocence, replacing it with an architecture that records citizen movement preemptively. Residents across Wisconsin are now reviewing these programs and questioning their necessity. The mayor of Verona ordered the city's flock cameras to be covered with black garbage bags, citing concerns over a federal privacy breach. In Dane County, the Board of Supervisors discovered a similar grant bypass and voted 32-1 to defund the $80,000 program. Price County has the same opportunity to dismantle this network. When the funding mechanism for surveillance is made transparent, these programs often face immediate legislative challenges. U.T.A.V is calling for a permanent policy fix, the adoption of a Community Control Over Police Surveillance Ordinance, or CCOPS. This framework is a standard policy solution supported by civil rights organizations like the ACLU. A CCOPS ordinance requires law enforcement to obtain explicit public approval before deploying any new surveillance technology. This requirement applies regardless of the funding source. When administrative silence meets a mobilized electorate, the response often moves beyond the standard rhythm of town hall debate. Direct legislative action can force an audit of hidden operational ledgers, providing a mechanism to legally terminate contracts and break corporate vendor lock-in. The removal of funding and physical access terminates the data syndication, effectively reclaiming the community's civil liberties from the surveillance grid. Direct democratic action serves as a final barrier to the covert privatization of public safety when state-level regulations remain unwritten.